Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to Talking Grit, part of the Believe Podcast Network. I'm Jason Harwood. With me, as always, is Jacob Litton. It's been an amazing week for the podcast. We signed in with Believe. Our new podcast host was completely unexpected and awesome. So we're really excited about how that's going to improve the show. So stay tuned for more information as we go on that. We do have a great show for you here today. We have a topic that came from one of our listeners, Caleb Orms. We're going to discuss if Gibbs and Bijan are the new Barry and Emmitt. I lived through the Barry and Emmitt phase, and the parallels are pretty amazing. So thought that'd be fun. So when we had this topic come up, I thought there is one person that I want to have on this show. And when that person turned us down, I went quickly moved to our next guest. I said, of course, I'm joking. We had so much fun with our guest last time. We're lucky to have him back, and I'm glad that he made time to join us and put up with my jokes. We have the senior editor from Pride Detroit, Ryan Mathews. How you doing, Ryan?
Boys, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me back on. I'm glad I did well enough last time that I got a second invite.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I did have to joke with you at the beginning, and I was hoping that you wouldn't log off right away, and I said that. So I'm glad you stayed with us.
If you made it through the last one, it'll be all right. He's used to you by now.
He knows I don't say anything seriously. Oh, I think Ryan kind of froze up.
Dang
there,
it, Jason. See, you offended him, and now he's going to pull the whole Wi-Fi dip out.
He's out. Yeah, he's out, man. Wait, hold on. He's dipping. Hold on. Let's see if I could change some of the settings here.
This might be a record for quickest the guest has had to bail because Jason made him mad.
That's pretty bad, right? He's out. I got it on standard resolution, so let me see about this. Oh, he's out now, so maybe he's logging back in.
We'll give him a minute and see if he comes back on.
Yeah.
In the meantime, guys, you're just stuck with me and Jason again. Terribly sorry about this.
Yeah, terribly disappointing for everyone in the chat,
They were all ready to have a different guest. Yeah. Maybe Jason was going to let them talk, and now we're not so sure.
Yeah, no, man.
Well, do we want to go through our comments while we're waiting for Ryan?
Well, hold on. I want to check and see if there's a way I can turn off some of the, so it's not as... While we wait, Jacob, how you doing, man?
I've been good.
Yeah.
Fell short in my task to get Lions training camp tickets, as did majority of people that I know, including you.
Yes. Sitting on there, and there was someone at work, too, that was on his computer trying to get there, and he couldn't get there either. All right. I can pause the upload if he can't get in there. Yeah, it's sitting on there. If anybody in the chat got tickets, I'd be curious to hear how they got some.
There's no way that they had. If you had some sort of weird strategy, please share. I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
Because I mean, like 5 minutes before it started, I'm in there refreshing, clicking right away, and continue to do so until probably 10:15, 10:20. I forget what time it was when the queue actually came on, and then I was already in 4,000th place.
Yeah, that was
2 devices. I had my PC, I had my gaming computer, and I had my laptop. And both of them, one of them was like 4,200, the other one was like 35 or 3,600 or something.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just keep going here, man. Yesterday I jumped on our friends in the UK, their podcast, for a few minutes. They had a live call-in show, so I called up.
Oh, so you called in?
Ash? Yeah, it was just it was kind of like a Zoom thing, so I just jumped on there real quick and talked a little bit about the offensive line, and it was cool.
Did you offend them? Did they boot you off of the show?
I offended a whole country. Actually, what was hilarious is that Bradley was down here a little bit while I was listening to them before I jumped on. And they're pretty free with their language on that show,
Oh,
and so it was like F this but it was Bradley's like, I love the show. They're just saying F this in the British accent. It sounds amazing.
yeah. Everything sounds cool in the British accent, right?
It does. It sounds so much cooler than us. That's why we like having Ash on, right? It's like
I don't know about cooler, sophisticated, right? There's just something weirdly sophisticated about when they say it in the British accent,
yeah. And then
even when you can't understand them.
I got a message from Ryan. He said his computer crashed. He's rebooting. So, or he's really faking and he's gone. He's like driving home.
He's got to
like,
commit
"Screw
to the
those
bit,
guys."
right?
Yeah.
He's not even there anymore. He's on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
I
still,
gotta go.
still trying, guys.
Yeah.
I'll show them. Make fun of me before I even get to talk.
Yep. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Well, if this doesn't turn out tonight, Ryan, we'll set something else up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make sure Jason makes no stupid jokes, or he'll just save them for the end.
No, you can't promise I won't make any stupid jokes.
I can't.
That's
Nope.
I can't promise that. I know you.
I
can't.
gave
you
up.
Can't control what I said.
I gave up episode like 3 or 4. I was like, I just can't. He's just gonna say something stupid every time.
Yeah.
You went with a normal greeting again today. It was off to a good start.
I know. I saved it up. So Justin.
It was a good joke. It was a good joke too. I laughed.
It was good.
At the joke.
I tested it on Sarah.
Okay.
I tested
maybe
it
that's
on
what
Sarah. Yeah. I wanted to. Because like I didn't want to be too mean, but I thought it'd come off. If I did it right, I thought it'd come off good, and it got you to laugh. I think you laughed. I'm pretty sure. So
I did, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Maybe that's what did it in.
Yeah.
You made fun of him. I laughed at him, and he was like, "You know what?"
He's like, "Screw these guys. Talking grit. I ain't talking to them."
Those people I went to school with, we would play like a Halo before like Call of Duty, and you'd play online. If you start losing or you get angry, or even like Madden, college football, you go push the button on your Wi-Fi router, and then you just lose connection. And then they'd be like, "Oh man, sorry, I couldn't finish the game." It's like you were getting worked.
Yeah. Let's say hi to the people in the chat here. Dan's back. He missed last week. He wasn't live. We missed you in the chat, Dan. We're glad to have you back.
Absolutely.
Justin Sane is in here. He must be a Ryan fan because he's normally not in our chat, but we're glad to have you here. He did state that Ryan left to get nuggets. Do you know what that means, Jacob? Do you know why he said that?
No.
Ryan for like their charity thing, if they hit certain thresholds, they have to do certain things. Like they agreed to do this ahead of time. He had to eat 100 nuggets in one sitting.
Nice.
Yeah. There he is. Oh my gosh.
Maybe he's back.
I'm back, and everything's all good. I think I knew the problem, and I got it figured out. So,
hey man, we
coming in crystal clear now. So
yeah, you're doing good. All right. So let's. I won't do the bad joke again, but what we'll do is that we'll say we had so much fun with you last time, Ryan. We are very. When I say that to anybody, I realize what a time drain it is to, like, you go to a school, you have kids at home. We really do appreciate the time, and we enjoy your company. So I'm glad you came back on here. So again, if you missed it, it's the senior editor from the Pride Detroit, Ryan Mathews. Thank you for coming back twice.
Twice as
Three
nice.
times.
Twice as nice. Yeah. No, I'm super stoked to get into what we have to talk about today, and I don't know, maybe we'll even have time to talk about stuff that we weren't planning on talking about. Those are the best conversations.
Right.
I think last time we talked about Back to the Future and pedophilia, or something like that, or incest. Incest is what we talked about. So you got that to look forward to right at the end.
All right, maybe we'll just be done after Gibbs and Sanders talk. I don't know.
Right. Ryan, your computer's going blank again. I don't.
It's crazy.
It's like, he's gonna hit the button.
I
Wow.
know. Yep.
Are you got here? Drink bit. Okay. All right.
All right. So we're gonna hit some Spotify comments that we got from last week in here, and then it's gonna lead into some questions for Ryan. So first comment is from Jeff Jennings. This is based on our quarterback talk that we had last week. He said he's truly disappointed, and Jacob and I, he said the greatest Lions quarterback is obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown. 100% completion percentage, 100% win percentage in games played as quarterback, 1-to-1 pass to touchdown ratio. No other Lions quarterback can compare. What were we thinking last week, Jacob? We totally whiffed on that.
Right, way over my head.
I know. Dan Montgomery might be in the same conversation. Obviously no longer a Lion, but Jake says third favorite Lions QB behind the big two is Dave Craig. A little bit before my time. I know that's before both your time, but yes, Lions quarterback. Mountain Lion says, y'all talking all-time Lions QBs and no mention of Bobby Lane. These were people that we watched live, and I know that Jacob makes fun of how old I am, but I didn't watch Bobby Lane live. I'm aware of the curse that he laid upon our franchise that some say maybe hasn't been lifted yet. I don't know, but we did get a playoff. We did get a playoff win. So, all right. So Ryan, I wanted to include you now. So we keyed you in before the start of the show. Your three favorite all-time Lions quarterback with the stipulation that you watch them play.
Yeah, this is easy to answer. Number one is Matthew Stafford with a bullet. I was the person always calling in a 97-1 to tell them that Matthew Stafford is actually good, and the Lions need to kind of get some other things in check before they want to drive him out of town. So I was a staunch defender of Matthew Stafford, and he was drafted the year that I graduated high school. So it was one of those really interesting moments where it felt like he was being anointed the new quarterback, and I was starting college, and I had all this free time on my hands and had a lot more time to watch football than I did previously. And I mean, I played fantasy football in high school, but Matthew Stafford felt like my quarterback in a way, that fans feel that connection to certain players. I definitely was hearing people and their arguments about Aaron Curry, but I'm glad that the Lions chose to go a different route. So I don't know if they would have been able to get Jared Goff and a couple of first-round draft picks for Aaron Curry.
No,
yeah. So Matthew Stafford's number one. Number two is Charlie Batch. No, I'm just kidding. Number two is John Kitna. I absolutely love the moxie that John Kitna had, and it was such a shame that 6-2 start resulted in a 7-9 football team and missing the playoffs. But John Kitna, just what a gamer, like a true throwback quarterback. And as somebody who I did kind of age myself right there by talking about when Matthew Stafford was drafted, but John Kitna felt like a quarterback from yesteryear. Like John Kitna was a quarterback that my dad and my grandfather respected. And I didn't always hear them talk glowingly about, people like Joey Blue Skies and the such. So John Kitna is my number two. Do you guys have fond memories of John Kitna?
He was on my list.
Was he? Okay. I saw with the head nod. So where was he on your list? Was he number three?
I had three. I had Kitna 3. And then I went Goff 2, Stafford 1.
Okay. All right. What about you, Jason?
So mine was Stafford, Goff, and then I went Eric Kramer, number 3, because he won the last playoff game before Goff. So that was the positive thing that I had. I was like 11 or 12 when he won that game. So it stuck with me forever.
Yeah. It's sports have that funny way of doing things. Yeah. My number 3 is Mike McMahon.
Oh man,
I so badly wanted Mike McMahon to be the guy, and it just never materialized for whatever reason. I don't know what those reasons may have been, but he was somebody who captured me during my adolescence. I'm playing Madden NFL and I'm scrolling through all the rosters and I am taking note of all the attributes, and hey, this quarterback can move around a lot. Why not put him in the game? So he was a guy that I grew a great fondness of, and his mobility, and he wasn't the best, But I mean, there's just something to be said about a young boy and a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Because like that was all of my, like when we did our favorite Lions for each position, almost every position I couldn't get out of the way of being like, I played with them on Madden. So
Yeah.
I have a connection with them. I was like, you just don't understand. I had to dive deep for these guys. So yes, I completely understand it.
Yeah, Mike McMahon was I have fond memories of him too, Ryan, and it's like at that point you're waiting for anything positive for the Lions, right? You're like, could this be the guy? You just want it so bad, and and plus it was the fact that he could run. Like that was a novelty at that time. Like not
Mhm.
all the quarterbacks ran. There were more Jared Goffs than there were Mike McMahon's. Guys that could run around the league at that time. So and our offensive line stunk, so it was all right to have some guy with some wheels back there.
Yeah, quick couple honorable mentions. Dante Culpepper. I love Dante Culpepper. When he was with the Vikings, I love Dante Culpepper. He's one of those classic whenever you see the lists of like players who don't look right in that jersey and they show Dante Culpepper, I'm like, that doesn't look right. You are right. And I just the other one that definitely deserves a shout out is Drew Stanton. Because I definitely believe that, Drew Stanton, he's got Calvin Johnson to throw to. This is going to be incredible. Womp womp.
Yeah, right. If only.
Oh man. All right. Jake Strand is we're gonna get to the next comment. Jake Strand has another quarterback that you didn't mention, Ryan, and it's the backup to Stafford. So his top three were Stafford 1, Goff 2, Sean Hill 3. And actually Sean Hill was one of the better backups that the Lions ever had. Like he was solid. I think he is the one that threw the ball up to Calvin, right? That went in the Calvin
Bears game.
In the Bears game. I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
I'm
'Cause
pretty
Stafford
sure
got
that
hurt.
Stafford got hurt. Julius Pepper destroyed his collarbone or whatever.
Yes, that was that. Yeah, was that ACL? I can't remember what injury that was exactly, but I know it put him on the shelf for the rest of the year, I think, right? Like it was a bad injury.
Yes, it was.
Sean Hill also orchestrated the come from behind loss, but to the Tennessee Titans. The Hail Mary to Titus Young.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I'm not the only Debbie Downer, Jacob. Ryan's here to fulfill my shoes when
That's relevant to what we're talking about, though. We'll just be anything Lions related. And Jason will be like, remember when we lost the 49ers in the championship? Like, shut up. What are you talking about?
No.
I'm like, why do you bring this stuff up?
Though,
Any
that's
chance
exactly
he gets.
how I do it. That's
right.
exactly how that's exactly how it goes. All right, so Jake went on to say his current, because we did the top 5 current. He has Stafford 5, Lamar 4, Joe Burrow 3, Josh Allen 2, and he said, and Kermit himself, Patrick Mahomes number 1. Just putting you on the spot here, Ryan. Who's your number 1 quarterback going into this year? And if you want to think about it, I can come back to you.
Yeah, well, 2 things. You were totally spot on. I double checked it. It was a shoulder injury that Stafford suffered against Peppers.
Mm-hmm.
And am I answering who I think is the best quarterback going into the season, or who is my favorite quarterback going into the season?
Not your favorite. So this list would be the best quarterback going into this year, and obviously that best can go so many different ways. So there's no certain criteria. So you could just say who do you think is the number 1 quarterback, and
Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL. I've always been a huge fan of Lamar Jackson, and him being ranked 69th on the NFL's top 100 list is enough for me to never care about that list ever again.
100%. Right. Especially seeing the other quarters pop up after him. Trevor Lawrence.
Because Caleb's good. Is Caleb been on the list yet? I haven't.
Not yet. They're gonna make him top 20.
Oh God, that list is screwed. But I had Josh Allen number 1.
Okay.
Jacob went with Patrick Mahomes. But here's a question I'll ask you, because I asked him, you going into the Super Bowl and you're picking 1 quarterback. Is that still Lamar, or are you picking someone else?
I mean, if he's the one who brought me to the dance, I got to dance with him, right?
Okay.
I will hear every other argument. I think Josh Allen is worthy of being there. I think Patrick Mahomes is worthy of being there. I think that Joe Burrow even deserves to be in that tier of quarterback. Like, I don't think that it's because it seemed like for a couple of years it was like Patrick Mahomes is the diamond standard, and then the guys under him are the guys who haven't won anything yet. And I just don't see that to be true, especially as you've seen the Chiefs kind of fall back to earth a little bit because now all dynasties can be the New England Patriots of the 2000s. So I really think that like those four guys that we just named, Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, and Allen, I think all four of those guys belong in like the top tier. Are you guys still buying any Justin Herbert stock? Do you guys believe in Justin Herbert?
Jacob, tell them who my comparison to Justin Herbert was last week. Do you remember?
Did you not compare him to Stafford?
I did. I said he's early Lion Stafford, like not like early injured, but like that early time where like he would do amazing things and you'd be like, okay, this is a really good quarterback, but he'd also make boneheaded decisions where like he's putting the game on his shoulder where I don't know if Justin Herbert necessarily needs to do that, in his situation. So that's I don't buy it right now, Justin Herbert stock, but if he matures, he's definitely got the talent to be that guy. And Ryan, if he leaves Los Angeles and goes to a big market, just like Stafford went down to the Rams, they're going to fall in love with him. He's going to get all the primetime games. They're going to go glowingly. And if he succeeds, then, all of a sudden he's all pro quarterback in the MVP conversation, all that stuff. I don't know. But where are you at with him?
I'm buying all the Justin Herbert stock this year because they hired Mike McDaniel. Like, I have a lot of faith in Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator. And, I'm hoping that you get a year 2 jump out of Omarion Hampton. Hopefully he gets a healthy offensive line because holy smokes, it seems like Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater is getting hurt like every other week. So hopefully they can get some health along that offensive line. But I think that they have all of the pieces to be a pretty darn good offense. So I'm buying Justin Herbert stock this year.
All right. You don't do fantasy anymore? I heard you make that comment earlier.
Oh, well, no, I was heavy into fantasy football in high school and like in college and stuff. I'm down to just one league with my buddies, and it's a keeper league, so it's just done the right way, Yeah,
nice.
No, it's good. Yeah, I'm in 2, and both of them are with Jacob. So yeah, just either people with like one of them's with our kids. So and you may think that that's easy, right? You're playing with kids. No. It's not, because they have all the time in the world and they could grab free agents and they could do all this stuff that I don't have time for. And my son watches more football than I have time for. And it's won the championship.
Didn't he win last year? Yeah, right.
2 years ago. It was my son versus your son in the championship game. Yeah. And they still rub it in my face. So
right.
Not better. All right. So last comment to get to, and then we're going to get into our main topic of today. So Caleb Orms, who I said earlier gave us the topic of the show, he says, I have to admit, I like golf. I have zero bad things to say, but it would have been awesome to see Stafford with Dan and Brad. Can you imagine if Calvin stuck around too? And then he asks about the contracts coming up, which is Gibbs, Branch, and Laporta. Do you think we'll actually trade someone? I think we're going to save that topic for next week, but the Gibbs contract talk will come at the end of this show, so you could stay tuned for that. Real quick, do you think a trade? Do you foresee any trade before the season?
I don't. I really don't. Just because you brought Drew Petzing in, and you don't want to take away weapons from him. And, getting the news today that Sam Laporta is cleared and 100% ready to go for training camp, I think that's a great indication that they want him in Detroit. I think talked about it a lot last year, but after that Commanders game, you kind of wondered why the Lions run offense didn't look the same. They were down Sam Laporta. They were down Brock Wright. And those tight ends being so important in what they want to do on offense. I think you brought in Petzing. You heard what Trey McBride had to say about Drew Petzing. Well, I definitely want to see Sam Laporta with Drew Petzing then. If you see the kind of player that Trey McBride's turned into in Arizona. So I don't foresee them trading Sam Laporta. I know that was kind of like a hot name to throw around right before the NFL draft, it seemed like.
Yep.
But Brian Branch, coming back from an Achilles injury, what kind of value does he have to begin with? And if he does have value, then you want him back on the field. You don't want to move on from Brian Branch. So Brian Branch is going to be here as well. And you traded David Montgomery. You're not handing the keys to the kingdom over to Sione Vaki. So Jahmyr Gibbs is a priority. Jahmyr Gibbs is the top priority. Jahmyr Gibbs is the most important person for the Detroit Lions on offense. And that includes a laundry list of players, right, guys? Like, we're talking about offensive linemen. Penei Sewell is very, very important. If the Lions lose Jahmyr Gibbs, that's a big, big problem. That is not good for the Detroit Lions offense.
Agreed.
For what Drew Petzing says is he wants to create, matchups, wants to create nightmares for the defense. Jahmyr Gibbs is your guy because you move him all around, and
he's a boogeyman. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. It's going to lead right into what we want to talk about now. You got two of the top running backs. It was Jacob and I's number 1 and number 2. I think it's most people's consensus top 1 and 2. Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson going neck and neck against, and we're going to talk about some Barry and Emmitt comparisons, like where they're at year 3. They're, the Gibbs and Bijan are in the year 3 or just completed year 3. What do their stats look like against Barry and Emmitt? How do Barry and Emmitt, would they look in today's system? Would they be able to, would they excel? Would they be down, down mid-tier? Who knows? We're going to talk about that. Same thing. Jahmyr and Bijan, how would they have looked in the 90s? And then we're going to do like a little fantasy draft of drafting those 4 running backs in today's system. And and then we'll talk about expectations because they both lost. Jahmyr and Bijan both lost their running mate this year or from last year. So talk about how that's going to affect the game too. So, and then we'll get into maybe some Gibbs contract talk and how much we'd want to spend at that. So, Jacob, I'm going to start with you on this. How much does like the system dictate their greatness? Some people might say Gibbs is in an Emmitt situation and Bijan is in a Barry situation. What do you think? Do you think that they create the system or does the system create those running backs?
I mean, I understand that comparison. My thing is, if you look at Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, very close, pretty much consensus 1 and 2 for most people, but Bijan made All-Pro last year and carried the ball how many more times than Jahmyr? If Jahmyr Gibbs this year, he doesn't have David Montgomery to split carries anymore. He's going to be getting way more touches than he did before. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs could be Offensive Player of the Year. I think he should be probably like really high on the betting list for that as long as he stays healthy for the whole time. So
he's number 1 on FanDuel right now.
Yeah. I don't think that. Obviously, we had the offensive line struggles last year. You can say that the Lions obviously have a better team than the Falcons do. Bijan is heavily involved, or has been heavily involved. He's been the focal point of their offense, where Jahmyr Gibbs has kind of had to split time right there. So I think the true comparison is going to be this year when they're both carrying the ball an equal amount of times. Because right now, Gibbs has more yards per carry. I think he has more yards per reception. He's got way more touchdowns in a much smaller sample size. So I don't think that the system necessarily dictates their greatness, but I think that that's why the yardage is skewed towards Bijan, which resulted in Bijan getting All-Pro last year, right? I mean, if Gibbs got 200, whatever, however many carries that Bijan had, then I think that Gibbs would have been in front of him.
What about you, Ryan? Do you think it's a system thing, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny how these two will just always inextricably be linked to one another. It's the modern day Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith conversation. It's Jahmyr Gibbs or it's Bijan Robinson, just them both being in the same draft class. And I thought something that was really interesting as we were talking about it on our show a couple weeks ago when we were comparing like the running backs in the NFC North, and just like the tier that Jahmyr Gibbs is far and away and above better than any other running back in the division, and how he belongs to that elite tier of running back in the NFL. And then you start thinking about that elite tier of running back in the NFL, and there's just a lot of names that it seems like there was almost kind of a running back lull, so to speak. And there's just been some running backs who have proven it now for 2, 3, 4 years plus. and you have your Derrick Henry, who's still a very useful back. And, you want to talk about if you get to the Super Bowl and you want to have one running back and you're on the 2-yard line, I don't know if I'm going to pick another guy other than Derrick Henry. And you have Saquon Barkley, who's coming off a, Offensive Player of the Year award the prior season. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane is a very, very good running back who I think gets very little pub down in Miami for being on such a bad football team. I think it's close. I think Robinson, when you watch him run, he has some more forwardness to him than Gibbs does. I think they're just different running backs. I think they're different skill sets, and I think that their run styles are so different that comparing them is, picking between like your two favorite ice creams. I'm a Lions fan though, so I picked Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy. But I think anybody who wants to try to put forward that Bijan Robinson is the better of the two, I can hear the argument, because you look at that Atlanta offense. Is anybody like too threatening? Like, yes, you have Pitts, yes, you have Drake London, but I think everybody at the beginning of every week goes, we need to stop Bijan Robinson. And if we stop him, we have a really good chance at stopping the rest of the Falcons offense. I think if teams try to key in on Jahmyr Gibbs, there's a whole host of other guys, and there's Jared Goff as a quarterback who can make you pay. So I think that Bijan is probably, it sounds strange to say, but he might be more important to the Falcons than Gibbs is to Detroit. But I also just said that if Detroit loses Jahmyr Gibbs, that's not good for Detroit. So, but I think that Bijan is just so essential and critical to everything that the Falcons can accomplish on offense.
Yeah. It's interesting because I would say you'd have a similar talk about Barry and Emmitt, whereas Emmitt is your guy that's going to smash it in there, get the yards. You're going to count on him like in more of a straight head, like going forward, like just how you described Bijan, right? Whereas Barry is not going to do that. He's going to bounce. I mean, he's not going to shy away. He's not going to shy away from contact, but his whole thing is to just totally make you miss. And Gibbs, while he's not Barry, no one ever will be Barry, but he does have that ability to just make you look stupid. Like you could ask, was it Harrison Smith that he just twice made him look like grabbing for air? So it's, as far as the situation though, it is interesting. I would say the Lions up until last year, great offensive line, right? Had the Emmitt offensive line, that's stuff that you dream about. You got everything up front, everything's just moving up front. You got all this space. Last year, Gibbs had to deal with a little bit different, and I think when you compare the two, like I hope that Gibbs develops a little bit of patience going up to the line, because I remember a stat they mentioned the Ravens game, like he's the fastest to get to the line. Him and Derrick Henry had the most miles per hour when they hit the line, and it's great when you have huge holes, because then if you get to the second level, he's making guys miss and going through. The problem is if you don't have those huge holes, and he didn't have that a lot of times last year, you're running into people. And I think of like a guy like Le'Veon Bell when Le'Veon Bell was good. Like sometimes you would watch, like he just looked like he was in slow motion, but he would find a hole and get right through. So I'm not saying that you could just develop that instantly, but I would like Gibbs to develop a little bit of patience, and maybe Bijan already has that. Couple guys when you talked about the top running backs, Dan Pass said CMC. We haven't mentioned CMC, and he's healthy. He's just a guy that you can count on getting those first downs. Like he just makes people miss and does. And Jonathan Taylor's been the top of the game last couple of years that he's been healthy. So those are.
I mean, he was an MVP candidate the first half of last season.
I know.
Right.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Make a Daniel Jones look good, right? Throw it out to Jonathan Taylor and let him go.
That's right. But isn't it crazy though? Like you add those two names to the mix, guys, and there's even more that I'm thinking about that are. I mean, Jeremiah Love was drafted by the Cardinals super early in the draft, and I think that there's just so much talent. Kenneth Walker Walker won a Super Bowl, and the Seahawks were just like, that's okay. All right, we're good. We're going to go with the other guy that we have behind him, and then we're going to draft another guy. Like I think there's just a surplus of talent, but the top tier talent it does differentiate itself.
You had made it. You kind of inferred this like 3 years ago. They're no one wanted running back. Josh Jacobs is out there for a while. Finally signs with the Packers. Saquon, the Giants are like, nah, we don't need that. We don't need the future offensive player of the year, just dynamite player. Those guys aren't worth it. And maybe when we get to the contract information, I wanted. We could talk about running back contract and like how much they're worth. I think that's worth it. But Ryan, I want to talk to you. How when you're talking about all-time running backs, and where does Emmitt fall for you? Like I know that he's the all-time rusher. Jacob we already had this conversation probably a couple of weeks, but I just want to get your perspective. Like, where do you view Emmitt in the greatness scale?
He definitely belongs in the same breath as a lot of these other guys, and I think at a certain point you're just splitting hairs, because if you look at the all-time rushing leaders, sometimes it's the guys who have a short shelf life. You think about your Chris Johnsons of the world, who they're here, they're an absolute supernova, and then they're gone. But that time, that period in time in which they were that running back, they were the man. They were the big dog in the yard. One of my favorite running backs of all time is Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams was traded for an entire draft. That's how valuable Ricky Williams was coming out of Texas. And he was a damn good running back. And you want to talk about a bell cow back? Like, look up some of those numbers that he had in Miami when he was running 400 times a year. It was insane. But I think the greatest thing that Emmitt has is that his career spanned for such a long time. And I think people kind of mistakenly associate that with, he didn't take a beating in Dallas because they had a great offensive line, and that's why his career was able to be as long as it was. And just because it was as long as it was, he eventually kept playing until he could finally get that record as the league's all-time rushing leader ahead of Walter Payton. But I think that there just has to be a real appreciation for being able to play for, he played for 15 years as a running back in the NFL. From 1990 to 2004, he was 5'9" and weighed 221 pounds. And this guy had over 4,400 rushing attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I don't care how you did it. I don't care, you may have been on the cream or something, but even then, to last that long in the NFL is such an accomplishment in and of itself. So if you want to say that Emmitt Smith is the greatest running back of all time, I can't get too upset with you about that. But there was someone who was better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Someone in that Honolulu blue. I know where you're getting there, Ryan. But and Emmitt had to put 2 years through Arizona. What if Barry would have played with another team for 2 years? That would that'd be so weird. Yeah. Would you rather have him play for 2 years for another team or retire the way he did? How about that? What would, right now, looking back on it?
So I think the closest thing I have to this, right, is my generation's experience with that is Calvin Johnson. If Calvin Johnson would have went and played 2 seasons for the New England Patriots, I would have barfed.
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to watch a single Patriots game. I would not have been able to sit in that chair and watch Calvin Johnson go play with Tom Brady. Are you kidding me? There's no way. So no. Yeah, Barry Sanders, fax it in, buddy. Call it a day.
Yeah. I guess I had never thought about it that way. That would have been really hard to watch him in a different uniform. So I'm wondering if Cowboys fans felt the same way about that. Let's move on to Barry and Emmitt in today's NFL. Let's start there before we move to the time warp of going back in time. What do you think Barry and Emmitt compared to today's NFL, Ryan? Where do you think they'd be at?
They are 2 smaller guys, right? You look at, like we just talked about, with Emmitt being 5'9", 220 pounds, Barry Sanders, 5'8", 203. Yeah. These are real small guys, but we see real small guys in the league today. Jahmyr Gibbs is not the biggest running back that you'll encounter. He's 5'9", 202, so pretty similar to Barry. Devon Achane, not a very big guy. He's working out just fine down there in Miami. So I think the size isn't a problem for either of those guys. I mean, like Devon Achane he's sub 200 pounds. He's still playing in the NFL. So I think there's plenty of examples of guys who are slight of frame that are able to play. And if you add in how much work they got in their day, can you imagine them getting the workload that they would get in today's day and age, where it seems like if you are an NFL team and you don't have that second running back, you're kind of worried about where your running back room is. So Barry Sanders is going to be able to have like a David Montgomery behind him, and I'm going to get the best out of Barry all the time? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about their games? Like they both weren't huge receiving threats. Would you think that they would adapt to that in today's NFL, or would it what you saw then was what you get now?
I wonder, Jacob, do you think that that's just a matter of the era in which they came up, that isn't really a skill set that we're focusing on too much with our running backs?
Absolutely. It was just a different time, right? The offense was not expanded to do that as much. So that's why their numbers are low. I don't think it's necessarily that they wouldn't be able to do it or wouldn't be able to adapt, because they did have catches, and Barry Sanders out in the open space on some screens and stuff like that would be dangerous. I just think that they, it was a different time. They didn't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I feel the same way. It's like Elgin Baylor, could he have shot 3-pointers? I don't know. They didn't have a 3-point line, so he probably didn't practice shooting that far away from the basket. So I think I wouldn't bet against either of those guys learning how to catch the football. They're just incredible athletes. They would be able to adapt to that easily.
I also, the linebackers and stuff, like the athletes are different now than they were back. Like linebackers were much bigger. Now they're quicker. So I'm wondering how that would affect Barry versus Emmitt. Like Emmitt, was more your straight ahead, like run over people type. I mean, he's not like a bruiser, but you know what I mean? He's more apt to run into contact, whereas Barry was trying to run around people. I'm wondering if today's athlete, it would affect his game differently.
Yeah, you have your linebackers that are faster and like rangier and, just more lanky. Like you have a lot of length in linebackers now. So, maybe getting away from those guys might be a little bit more difficult for somebody like Emmitt, who is slight of frame, but like there's still Bobby Wagner. Like Bobby Wagner still would be a guy that I wouldn't want to run to, into the hole and find him sitting there waiting for me. So I still just think Barry's just so elusive. Like you have that it thing, you know what I mean? And I know the old trope and the old cliche about like, yeah, every Barry play that went for 40 was great, but there were 2 plays or 3 plays that went for -7, and that really shot the team in the foot or whatever. And it's like, I didn't see anybody else doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see anybody else pulling up the slack. And so like there was a bit of that to Gibbs' game last year too, though. Did you guys feel that? Like Gibbs wasn't, I mean, he still ran for 5 yards in an attempt, but like it didn't feel as efficient as it was, say, in like 2024.
Yep, absolutely. It just felt like because they weren't using David Montgomery as much, they're giving some of these carries to Jahmyr Gibbs, and he just wasn't able to break those runs off the middle. And with David Montgomery there, it's like, why are we doing this? Why wouldn't we have given Montgomery those carries? Why are we giving them all to Gibbs? Get Gibbs on the outside, utilize both of them. And now this year we don't have that option, right? We've got Pacheco to maybe get a yard or two when we need to, but largely it's Gibbs' offense, so he's going to have to be able to figure that out. I just want to make another point about like the old defenses. Also, the defensive tackles back then, when they're 350, 400 pounds, they can't move. Like they're just there to plug up space. Now there's 350-pound defensive tackles that are running like 4.8, 40-yard dashes.
Yeah.
So you've got that to worry about too. They're no longer stationary, their feet in cement. So it's hard to get up the middle like that.
Unleash Jalen Carter in 1992 and see how that works out.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's like the whole supervillain, superhero thing. As the athletes got better, Barry would have just risen to the occasion. He would have just, put on moves that we never saw before. Like, oh, just I miss watching him run. I want to just to get some stats behind what you said about the carries for the first 3 seasons. Emmitt Smith had 979 carries. Barry had 877. Bijan had 805, and Jameer only has 675. When you're talking about workload, so we'll see how that changed this year when when they when I don't know about Bijan how much more with the Algier gone he's going to get a higher workload. Jameer we know is I would expect a little higher workload. How about Jameer and Bijan? How would they have fared in the 90s? Would it have been the same or they? What do you think?
I want to hear what Jacob has to say.
Yeah.
I mean, they just destroy it, right? Like just all pro every year, MVP conversation every year. It's funny when you look at like for basketball and football, when you talk about athletes now and you try to insert them back in like the 90s, it's almost everybody now would just absolutely destroy them in the 90s. Baseball is even worse. Like if you see those comparisons to like, 90s hitter, 80s hitter trying to hit Shohei Ohtani fastball, you take current players, they've adapted. There's such a higher level of athlete compared to back then. If you drop Bijan and Jameer back in the 90s, I think they just absolutely kill it. And I know they got away with maybe some more penalties and maybe a little more like rough hits and stuff like that. I don't think that matters. They're just too explosive not to do extremely well back then.
What's
what do
your
you got,
answer,
Ryan?
Yeah, all of that. You just take a modern athlete and throw them back. Like it's, I don't know, I always think about the basketball comparison, but it's like if you throw LeBron James into like 1964, they're going to the Salem witch trials are going to look like a 2-year-old's birthday party compared to what they do to LeBron James.
Yeah.
Averaging 60 points a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just worried if one of those big linebackers gets a hold of them and just like, does a 1990s hit where they're just like, or a safety comes up and just smashes them. Like that's what's amazing about Emmitt and Barry playing as many games as they did. Because I mean, they'd spear you back then. I mean, those safeties didn't care. Helmet to helmet, it didn't matter.
Oh yeah. Just like absolute missile launchers.
Yep.
I think that's maybe an underrated part of Jahmyr Gibbs' game, though, is you see him take some licks and he gets up and he's right back to the huddle.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know if I've ever really seen him take a hit and like stay down for a while. He's just a guy who he takes a lick and he keeps on ticking, man. So I think that would translate well to yesteryear.
Yeah.
It's like one of his first carries up the sideline. He was up the sideline. He could have went out of bounds. He did not go out of bounds. Shoulder down. He was like, "I'm here."
The Chiefs game, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was exciting. Yeah, I remember that he kind of bounced off and then moved forward a little. Took some extra yards. I knew he was going to fit in well with the team, Dan Campbell's team, when he did that. All right, if all four came out this year and like this draft that we just had, who would be first? Who would be second? Who would be third? Who would be fourth? I'll start with you, Ryan. Who you got an order?
Yeah, fourth I would go Bijan Robinson.
Okay.
He's such an incredible talent, but then I think that I would go Emmitt Smith. And then I'll go Jahmyr Gibbs. I'll go Barry Sanders. And I know that we're on a Honolulu Blue podcast, and I know that that's going to look and sound some type of way, but I am so curious to see where Jahmyr Gibbs' career is 5 years from now. Like, I can envision a world in which Jahmyr Gibbs is still one of the top running backs in the NFL 5 years from now. Like, that doesn't seem far-fetched. And I know that everybody always associates running backs with having short shelf lives, but there are those who do have longer shelf lives. We just talked about all of them: Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. These guys have been around for quite some time, and I can definitely see a world in which Jahmyr Gibbs is around. And if he's as effective as he is now, 5 years from now, we're talking about a guy who is going to be putting up Barry Sanders type numbers. We're going to be talking about a guy who maybe he is going to pass Frank Gore and his 16,000 rushing yards. So
Yeah.
it could happen. I can see a world in which that can happen. So that's why I'm going to put him at 2. Because
All
I
right.
definitely put Barry ahead of Emmitt.
Okay.
I think at large
Jacob?
it just depends on the volume that Jahmyr Gibbs gets and how healthy he's going to stay and how healthy or how well the team performs. Right? There's just some variables in there, and you're right. I mean, 4 or 5 years we might be having a conversation, which I wanted to ask Ryan this question before we move on, but Barry's just the all-time Lion, right? He's like the top. It's hard to envision anybody being over Barry Sanders as far as running backs and everything goes. What do you think Jahmyr Gibbs would need to do to be in that conversation or possibly pass Barry? Or do you think that it's just flat out not possible to be like the number 1 running back in Lions history?
You do feel like you're chasing ghosts, right? I do think that the 2 things that would need to happen for Jahmyr Gibbs to pass Barry Sanders is that he would have to break his rushing total. So you need Jahmyr Gibbs to rush for, what did Sanders finish with, like 16,000 or 15,269 yards? So he needs to rush for more than 15,269 yards, and he needs to do it in a Lions uniform. I think that if Jahmyr Gibbs goes somewhere else, even if he's as successful as he is now with this other team that he would potentially hypothetically go to, there's just something about Barry doing it in Detroit and only in Detroit.
Absolutely.
That would be my same stock answer I would apply to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to be considered a better receiver than Calvin Johnson unless he passes all of Calvin's marks and does it in a Lions uniform. Which, if you guys look at the numbers, he might be trending in that direction.
Right. It's just weird to think about somebody surpassing Barry. So we talked about this on a previous one, just because how much does Gibbs have to do before he can pass Barry Sanders and be like the number 1 running back? And like you said, if he's breaking all of Barry's records, he's a Lion the entire time. If they do, NFC Championship, Super Bowl championship, then he's up there. Obviously, then he would have the better accolades. But I still just think then it becomes almost like a LeBron and Michael Jordan thing, where it's like no matter what LeBron did, there's people that just will not put him over Michael Jordan. And I feel like for older Lions fans, it's hard for them to admit that anybody could be better than Barry. So let's hope that we have that conversation a few years down the road that Gibbs has really done that, and then we really have like who was the better running back.
Let's defer to the older person to tell us whether or not Jahmyr Gibbs can.
He can't envision it. He can't envision anybody passing Barry.
I cannot. It's a time thing, and so I was like 10 when Barry was drafted. He retired when I was just heading to college or whatever, and
we weren't born yet.
There's I just don't know if there's anything that Jahmyr could do for me personally. And I'm not saying that he couldn't be the better running back. I'm just saying for me personally, Barry Sanders is going to be my running back, just flat out. Like, he did amazing things on the football field as much as Jahmyr's done. I've said wow plenty of times when Jahmyr's run the ball. Barry Sanders, it was like a daily thing. I just don't think there's anything that's going to be able to get me to pass. Now, ironically, I think for me, maybe it's because I was a little older when Kelvin was there. I think Amon-Ra could pass Kelvin if we get. But bottom line for both those, a Super Bowl's got to happen. Like, because that's something that both Kelvin and Barry never got. So if a Super Bowl happens, then that changes the dynamic on all of it. But I guess maybe Jahmyr gets the game-winning touchdown in overtime running, then recency bias is going to kick in, and I'll probably say on that podcast right afterwards that Jahmyr has passed Barry. I could see that, me saying that, but then regretting saying it 2 weeks later, going, no, Barry's still my guy. But I don't know. I think it's a great conversation. It's a fun conversation to have, but I think it's nostalgia, and I think it's the timeline which you grew up. I think has a huge, like my boys, I don't know. They've seen the Barry Sanders highlights, but Jahmyr Gibbs was their running back when they started watching the Lions, like going to our season ticket games. Like I could see them thinking that Jahmyr is their running back. That is their Lions running back. I could foresee it for them.
I personally could never envision putting Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of Calvin Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anybody double team Amon-Ra St. Brown on the goal line. Just different, you know what I mean? But I think that we're having a legit discussion that is viable because these things could happen. Like Barry, through his first 3 years, he had 877 carries, 4,322 yards for 4.9 a carry.
Yep.
Like Jameer has not gotten that kind of work, but he's averaging 5.3 yards a carry. And he's doing all the things in the passing game too that you need to give him credit for as well. And just the touchdowns, touchdowns after touchdowns. And you think about how many touchdowns the Lions have scored since Jahmyr Gibbs got to Detroit, and how many of them ended up being David Montgomery touchdowns because they're on the goal line, or they're letting Amon-Ra St. Brown or David Montgomery throw the football. Like, would it shock you guys if Jahmyr Gibbs scored 20 rushing touchdowns next year?
No. Not at all.
And I mean, if I look at any season in Barry Sanders' career, did he ever get to 20 touchdowns? And I know that it's 16 versus 17 game schedule, but like the most he ever had in a season was 16.
16, yeah, year 3, 16. Yep. Yeah, I mean, well, and also Barry had 10 total receiving touchdowns his whole career.
Yeah.
And Gibbs is already...
Gibbs has 10 already.
Yeah, he's already surpassed it. I want to go back real quick because you made me think of with the Kelvin and Amon-Ra thing. Okay. You said that no one's ever double teamed Amon-Ra at the goal line, and that's never going to happen just based on Amon-Ra's. But I will tell you this, that when we beat the Rams and he caught that touchdown to seal it, everybody in the stadium knew that Amon-Ra was going to get that ball. I firmly believe that Sean McVay knew that Amon-Ra was going to get that ball. He still got open, and you could say Goff and him have that awesome connection, but like doing that in a Super Bowl and getting a touchdown, like when you know it's going to go to Amon-Ra, could have the same feeling as being double tuned and going down there. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that that's just how I feel, because I know that for you guys, Calvin was your Barry. That is just the case just when you guys grew up, and I get it, and I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying from my perspective, I could see it happening. Can't see it with Barry, but that's also, that was when I was
generational.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's fun. I just needed a fourth guy. I just need a fourth guy here that's my age, and then we could really battle it out. Tag team. I know you like wrestling there, Ryan. We could do some WWE tag team stuff. Tag you in.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy's 40. He's got an AA or pre-card at this point. Probably want to get him in here, maybe.
No, he would be on the Barry train at 100%. I know him enough to know that.
Do you remember what it was like to be 40, Jason, or did you already forget?
Whoa, man, yeah.
Your
memory goes quick afterwards. I remember back then I'd be able to remember things much better. Stats would come up like this, and now I got to have them on a screen right over here, and I got to remind it. And then you're my memory for players' names. I always forget people's names. So
yeah,
appreciate it. Real quick, I put some stats on Twitter, which were I think you just talked about. In the first 3 years, you got Bijan with 5,600 yards. You had Jahmyr with 5,000. Emmitt with little bit more than Jahmyr, 5,034, and you have Barry at 5,391. But touchdowns is the big difference, right? Jahmyr has 49 touchdowns. Second is Barry at 47. And then Emmitt at 43, and then Bijan is way down at 34, which is not bad for 3 years into the league, but compared to these other guys, it's quite a big difference. I don't know how many Tyler Algier.
The offense plays into it. The offense for the Falcons is not nearly as good. There's not as many opportunities for him to score.
Oh, and just think how many Gibbs would have if Dave Montgomery wouldn't have vultured so many down there.
So I was saying we're about to find out.
Unless they give it to Pacheco down there, they could use him as the bowling ball down there.
Yeah, I think it's even crazy though. Like he led the league in touchdowns in 2024, rushing touchdowns. He had 16.
Yep.
Yeah,
and he played with Dave Montgomery, and that's when Dave Montgomery was still getting a lot of run. And 16 is the most that Barry's ever had in a season. So
yeah,
no,
wow.
it's Yeah, it's great to have this talk of like having two generational running backs, like the Barry and then Gibbs. We waited for it for so long, and we had like some stopgaps in there that were fun to watch, but they just didn't do well for a very long time. Whereas Gibbs is, you know, he- if he and Petzing develop the passing, like if he starts being dangerous from the slot, oh, it's and then you get Eric Schlitt's Texas route. If they just run that all the time, then would be it could be he could be setting LaDainian Tomlinson records.
There's not a linebacker that can cover that very well.
Mm-mm.
Not a lot in the NFL that can do that.
Right.
Nope. How many carries do you think Gibbs is going to have this year compared to last year, like percentage wise? Do you think it's going to go up 15%, 20%?
Yeah, it's a good question, because in 2025, and I talked about this on the podcast, it kind of felt like they were already moving Jameer to that bell cow role. I know Jacob, mentioned, David Montgomery didn't get the kind of carries and the kind of run that we thought he was going to get. And because we already saw those numbers get skewed a bit in terms of their usage and how often Jameer Gibbs was on the field, I think also, too, some of that did boil down to situational stuff. Like the Lions were trailing in games and on third down and in passing situations, you're probably going to have more Jameer Gibbs out on the field anyway to begin with. So I don't want it to be so entirely out of whack that it shortens his shelf life. And I don't think that he's a guy who, he dealt with that injury in his rookie season where he missed just like a couple games. And since then, he's played 17 games in both those seasons afterwards. And I just think that you brought Isaiah Pacheco in because you think that he's a year removed from an injury and he's healthy, and you want to give Isaiah Pacheco a part in this offense. Like, you don't want him. I'm trying to think of, Jason, how many backups to Barry Sanders can you remember from the 90s?
Oh my God, none. You didn't. Why? It's the same argument that you're going to have with Jameer Gibbs. No one's ever going to be better than him. Why are you? If you're pulling him off on third down, you're making your team weaker.
You want your best. You want your best 11 on the field. That's for sure, right? And if he's the one who's the best out of the backfield, then you put him out there. 243 to what Dave Montgomery had 158 carries last year. If we see Isaiah Pacheco have less than 110 carries, I would start to wonder what happened. Like, if we're talking about giving him an additional 50-ish carries, you're talking about 293. Like, do we want to live in a world where Jameer Gibbs has over 300 attempts? I would be wondering what happened to the passing offense too, guys. Like, I'd be wondering about what happened there in terms of Amon-Ra and Jamos, and we're expecting more from Isaac Teslaw this year too as well, right? So that's another guy that you want to get incorporated into the offense. So I could see the splits looking more like they did in 2024 when Josh Reynolds was still here. You know what I mean? In 2023 when Josh Reynolds was here, and then in 2024 when they brought in Tim Patrick. And I think that if you see that situation kind of play itself out where there's a little bit more passing and they're paced by the run game, that is ideally, I think, where we want the Lions offense to be. I don't think we want to live in a world where Gibbs is getting 300 plus attempts.
I just hope we stay ahead of the sticks. Too many times last year we were behind the sticks. We got to be more efficient on first down, and that increases your third down efficiency. If you're more, that's why I think our third down efficiency was down. We weren't doing what we used to do before, and that was a lot of it was offensive line related. Jacob, what do you think about what do you think about his Ryan's thought about Pacheco having if he has under 110 carries, what do you think about that he should have?
Well, it hurt me to see David Montgomery go. I like the whole Sonic and Knuckles thing. I liked having Jameer Gibbs and not having to have him touch the ball, 400 times a season. I don't want him to have 300 plus carries. Like Ryan said, Pacheco's floating around 100 carries, 100, 150 or something like that. They're kind of mixing him in a little bit. I would be okay with not having Gibbs carry that many times. Like I said, if Gibbs does carry 300 plus, I think he's in the offensive player of the year conversation. Cool, great, awesome. I want Jahmyr Gibbs to be effective for, another 5+ years. You can't keep doing that. You saw with Saquon, I mean, time and time again, even Derrick Henry, like Iron Man, when you have those seasons where you carry it 300, 350 times, it's hard to do that back-to-back years. You just take a beating, there's too much going on, and then you're not as effective. And then we've got the conversation if he starts decreasing in effectiveness every year. I just don't even want that to come up. So I'm okay with it looking like it did last year with him getting more touches without having like an excessive amount. And Ryan said it right too. Like, I mean, if he is carrying the ball that much, something has gone wrong with the passing game. And we have a lot of mouths to feed. Laporta, J-Mo, Amon-Ra. I mean, Tesla, they're all going to be getting plenty of targets. We're going to be moving the ball around to have an effective offense. We shouldn't need our running back to have the ball that many times. That's where I'm at with it.
I wanted to throw in just like a couple of things for perspective. In 2025, we have the jumped to the wrong tab. My bad. In 2025, we had the top rushers. Jonathan Taylor had 323 carries. Christian McCaffrey had 311. James Cook had 309. Derrick Henry had 307. Those were the only guys who had more than 300 carries. In 2024, Saquon Barkley had 345 carries. What did Saquon Barkley look like in 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Derrick Henry was the other one who had 325. Kyron Williams had 316. Bijan Robinson had his season in 2024. He had 304. Jonathan Taylor 303. Josh Jacobs 301. Like, we see some repeat numbers there, but we also see someone like Kyron Williams who they felt the need to bring in Blake Corum, and they want to have another runner there, and they don't want him to have over 300 carries. So I think that while they want to make Gibbs more of a quote unquote bell cow, I think that has to come through the passing game. I think if I can trade off on like, hey, Gibbs is going to get 70 more, or let's say he's going to get like 60 more touches this year. Okay. Because if we're looking at what he did in 2025, if he had 243 carries, we're going to give him 60 more touches. I hope that at least 25 of those touches are in the passing game. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather have him be a guy who, last year he had 77 catches. I would like him to be in the 90s. If we're going to increase his workload, I would like to see him be a more active member in the passing game. Put Amon-Ra in the backfield. You want to mix it up and get funky with it. You want to bring in the J-Mo, the J-Mo reverses and everything like that. Be creative in that way. I would like to see that happen over just like, here, Jahmyr, like, get us out of trouble. I hope you can pop one off for 60 here.
Yeah.
I like your thought process there. And what I hope that Drew Petzing could do is create those mismatches that Gibbs will be more efficient in the passing game. We used him plenty in the passing game last year. I mean, we would like to have more receptions, but a lot of times he would have like 9 catches for like 60, 70 yards or something low. Like, it was just not, it was good. I'm not going to complain about it, but it wasn't as efficient as we would like. Create some space, create those mismatches, get him over the middle, and just, let him, if you could just give him a little bit of daylight, he could take it.
That's spot on. I mean, he had 63 targets for 52 catches, 517 yards, 9.9 yards per reception in 2024. 2025, he had 77 catches, 616, 8. Excuse me.
I got you, Ryan.
8 yards per reception. That's what he's trying to get out. And 5 touchdowns.
Yep. It's the efficiency. That's what you need. And that's where you bring Petzing in for. To be honest with you, I really, the communication and everything with Morton was off last year. And I wanted to believe going in this year that Morton was right. Like, we just need to keep doing what we're doing. And Petzing has kind of said that, but I also get the feeling that he's also seeing, like, and the defense even said it in the mini camps, like they're keeping us guessing. They're moving things around. Like that's what that's what we need to do is just and like you said, put Amon Ra. We've seen Amon Ra in the background. Now, see what the defense is going to do. See where those matchups are going to go and just take advantage of it. And that's what I hope Petsy and Kafka, that whole offensive team, that's what they do this year. It just you could have the same amount of touches, but just make them a lot more efficient, and then it looks totally different. Um, I think we're going to move on to some contract talk, if you guys are okay with that. I want to start here just because I thought when I was looking up the whole Emmitt and Barry stuff, and we're talking about running back contracts in 1993, Emmitt held out, from, you know, surprise, surprise, Jerry Jones didn't want to pay him for whatever reason. It even happened back in 1993, boys. Before you guys were watching football, it still happened back then. Emmitt Smith held out for a salary of $3.4 million. That's what he wanted, which made him the highest running back ever. But it also was 10% of the cap. Okay. So they're going to take up 10% of the cap at that time. So if Bijan or Gibbs, whoever signs first or whoever signs next, 21 million would only account for 8% of the cap. So even back then, Emmitt was, and that speaks to running backs and how they were valued at that time. But it's kind of interesting that, we're talking about these big numbers, but compared to this weekend, the running back was getting paid a bigger percentage than they were back then. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with you, Jacob, on this one. Um, there's been talk about a holdout, hold in. Are you buying any of that?
I don't think so. I mean, it's weird that it came up right now because I don't think that that's been a topic of discussion, for the last few months anyway. Maybe just because training camp is starting now. We go over this. I would much rather sign him to a contract before Bijan because you're hoping that we get a little bit of a discount by signing him first, right? Because you think that they're probably Saquon right now, number one, 20.6 million. You think that's probably the floor for Gibbs and Bijan, right? And it's kind of like the Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson thing where we hope to sign him first because whoever goes second is going to be, that's a new bar that you've set.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I would like to try to get him signed, especially now that David Montgomery's here. We know that we're putting the offense on his back. We know we want him around long term. There's not any more talks of moving him or anything like that. So I don't envision him holding out. I think even like Anzalone, who had the whole thing last year, and that really didn't end well, but he let it be known. He was very vocal that he wasn't happy about it and had things on Twitter and all kinds of stuff like that. I have not heard Gibbs saying anything about it. So I hope that this is just kind of a national media thing trying to make a story out of nothing, but I would be okay with signing him to a contract, as soon as possible.
You buying any of this hold in, hold out stuff, Ryan?
I do think that Jahmyr Gibbs has an awful lot of leverage. I think he has a lot of leverage, and I think that if he wants to choose to use it, I think that the Lions should get out ahead of it, and I think that they should pay the man. I think that you could give him a, I don't know, 4 years, $80 million contract. You're going to pay him $20 million a year. You're going to make him the highest paid running back. Do that. Get out ahead of it. To Jacob's point, you get to hopefully maybe save yourself a little bit of money when it comes to what Bijan Robinson is going to try to get the Falcons to pay him. So you're not bargaining against another contract. You have Devon Achans, which was 4 years, $68 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Gibbs should get paid considerably more. He deserves to get paid more. And he's so important to this offense that you don't want any of that. I don't think you want any of those vibes around your football team. I don't think you want to hold in. I don't think you want to hold out. I don't think you want one of the most important players on your football team to be talking about anything other than football and talking anything other about like taking on a new role in this offense as, your buddy's not here anymore. David Montgomery's not there. You're not simpatico. You're not arm in arm and all in this together. You are the guy. Everybody's looking at you to be the guy because you have proven that you can be the guy. And that's why your team felt comfortable shipping your buddy to Houston. So I think the Lions should put their money where their mouth is. They made this decision. if you're not going to pay Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't know how this ends well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like under Brad Holmes, the Lions have not franchise tagged a player. I do not foresee myself ever seeing a former NFL player like Dan Campbell ever wanting to franchise tag a player for the level of non-commitment it shows. Like, I think you're either a Dan Campbell guy or you're not. And Jahmyr Gibbs he's one of the best players in football. Just pay him. Like, why let these things get drug out? I'm always astonished. I mean, maybe not so with like somebody like Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, right? Because it's Cincinnati. You understand why they're being that way.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions don't want to earn a reputation for being cheap. And I don't think that they have really under Sheila Ford Hamp, in the sense that Goff, Amon-Ra, Penei Sewell, Jameson Williams, they pay guys. They reward guys internally. Kirby Joseph, okay? You got to take care of Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't care that he plays running back. You've seen what he's done. Like, you're going to pay him. And if it ends up not working well, build yourself an out in the contract.
Mm.
You know, maybe if it's not going to, give yourself an out after year 3, or maybe if you can work it out, you know, make it so it's not awful after year 2. You know, if you're going to tack this on to maybe the option year, in you know, the 5th year of his deal. So I'm all for paying the guy, and I think you should pay him what he wants. Because, do you guys agree? Do you think that he has the Lions like backed into a corner
Monty
a bit?
left. I mean, yeah. I mean, you mentioned it. You could have Pacheco, Vaki back there. I mean, you can't have that. He's got him where he wants him. But I don't get the sense that Gibbs is going to take the attitude that Anzalone had. Like,
oh, I don't think so either.
You know, and I just don't think that it would come to that. And so but I don't want those vibes at all. I didn't like the Anzalone vibes that came in.
Mm-mm.
And I don't think it played well throughout the whole year last year. And it certainly didn't play well after he left. You know, that was just some of that's just Alex being Alex. Like, you kind of learned that, like, you know, he'll stand up for himself, but he'll also be kind of condescending about it too. So I don't foresee Gibbs wanting to do that or do that, you know. And if you're the Lions, you know he's going to be the highest paid running back. Like, you got the Saquon contract. You have to beat that. You know that's what you got to beat there. Unless Gibbs was, you know, really wanting to outpace that, which I don't foresee that happening. Then the Lions have a gripe. Like, if he's saying I want 24 million a year, then okay, we got an issue. We can't do that. But you got to pay the guy, and because he's more than just a running back. He is your weapon in the pass game. He's not your whole offense, but he's, like you said earlier, if he's not on the field, then we're in trouble.
Right. How backed into a corner do you think we would be if Bijan signs first for $24 million a year?
Oh God.
Right? Because I mean, if he signs first, then Gibbs is looking at it, it's like, hey, that's what I deserve. I don't know who Gibbs' agent is, so I'm not sure if that's the vibe that they have. But regardless, whatever number, whoever signs first, the other guy's looking like, that's my bar. I want the same, or I want a little bit extra guaranteed money or bonus. I've got to be, you know, I got to set the bar the next highest. Jack Campbell's the only one in recent memory that's like, no, I don't need to necessarily do that.
Yeah. He admitted that he let some other linebackers down. Like,
right.
Not going.
But I mean, if Bijan signs first and Bijan signs for 24, you think you have to pay Jahmyr Gibbs 24, right? Or at that point, do you really talk about moving him? I mean, that's why I would rather sign him first and get this done and over with. Get him happy, get him on a good deal. You know, like we did with Amon-Ra, Goff, all those deals that we signed, which were like top or towards the top at the time. Now Goff is what, like 7th on the list or something like that? I don't even know exactly. Amon-Ra's dropped now too.
Amon-Ra's 10th on the list.
Yeah. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the second highest paid running back, and he signed 2 years ago was the extension that Christian McCaffrey had.
Mm-hmm.
And McCaffrey and Saquon both have, like, I think 4 void years or something like that on their contract. Achane is just a straight up 4-year deal. He doesn't have void years or anything like that. So the Dolphins could get out and just have some dead cap.
Well, I think you think about back to that offseason in 2024 when all 3 of them signed, Sewell, Amon-Ra, Goff. Like Goff signed for 4 years, 212. You guys remember what happened a little bit after that?
Love signed, right? Are you talking about Love or?
Well, I'm talking
Who
about
was it?
Tua signed for 4
Oh.
years,
Oh.
212.4.
Tua.
Like, I just think that I'm a little bit curious about why it hasn't already happened.
Mhm.
Like, I'm wondering if the Lions are just waiting. And, I kind of thought off the cuff about after the Terry and Arnold situation, like, hey, how about we get some good press out there? Jahmyr Gibbs contract extension. Like, let's get let's flush that out. Let's hey, we're rewarding our guys who don't allegedly get involved in extracurriculars that they shouldn't be getting involved in. I don't get the sense that Gibbs is the guy, Jason, to your point. I don't get the sense that he is the guy that would cause a stink about things. But I also would understand him to be the guy who says, like, business is business. Like, I know what I'm worth. I should get paid this much money. If you don't want to pay me that much money, I just wonder what kind of guy he is beyond that. You know what I mean? And that's really the question that you asked is, like, is it a hold in? Is it a holdout? It's I don't know. Like, I think that if you're Jahmyr Gibbs, going back to your original question, like, could he ever surpass Barry Sanders, or what would it take for him to surpass Barry Sanders? I don't know. Like, Barry had a holdout.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So this is the ultimate lesson to be learned here, is that time is a flat circle, and we're just all reliving what's already happened.
I think the interesting, say, Bijan, in your premise, Jacob, about Bijan cited for 24 million. At that point, you start revisiting the trading Laporta, or like the realization that, hey, we're not going to be able to sign Laporta, Branch, and Gibbs if Gibbs is going to start, going up to that echelon. And because I think Gibbs is your number one priority. And Ryan, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't come on here and announce the Gibbs contract. I thought you were going to be the next Sweater, and the Lions contacted you, and you were going to drop some knowledge on us today, and say, screw you, Jeremy. I'm giving it to the Talking Grit boys. They deserve it.
Well, that would have been quite the heel turn. I think Jeremy wouldn't talk to me for weeks. And I could never fill Sweata's shoes.
Yeah.
What an awesome, cool thing, an opportunity she had with the Jack Campbell stuff. Like, that was just so cool.
Yeah. I know there's Dan Pascal saying, why hasn't it happened? Is Ja asking for too much money? It might be a timing issue. I'm hoping that it's, wrapped up, training camp's coming up here quickly, but there's plenty of time before training camp that this deal gets announced, and, and he just comes into training camp and, brand new car and whatever else he, decides he wants to spend his money on. But it could be an agent thing too. I mean, that could be the other question, is that you have, one agent is holding out for the other one just to make that little bit extra money. I'll never trust an agent. So I like to blame them for a lot of things.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, look what's going on with the Red Wings.
All right. So real quick, I just want to say, when we talk about, we're talking about these numbers, Gibbs getting 21 million. When you look at a wide receiver, do you realize that if he gets that, like, he's in Jacoby Myers makes around $27 million. Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Like, is it a durability issue? Is it because they're taking too much contact? Like, if you ask me, would I want two, let's say, I don't know, AJ Browns, or would I want to have, one AJ Brown or two Jahmyr Gibbs? Is anybody in the league saying, I want one AJ Brown? They're going to say they want two Jahmyr Gibbs on their team, right?
Listen, the top 3 paid running backs from 2022: Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. Where are they at right now?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, the durability issues, especially Ezekiel Elliott's a great example of carrying the ball 300, 400 times a year. Like, that's great for a couple of years, and then your body breaks down. You can't do it anymore. Joe Mixon was just relevant not last year, but the year before. And then last year he had the whole, like, injury contract thing, and now he's still unsigned, right? I just think that's the leverage that teams have, is that they're one bad hit away from just not being relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Which is also true with receivers, but I mean, they're not, it's a different position, a different game. Every time the running back touches the ball, you're guaranteed that you're taking a hit, just about.
Not when Jameer Gibbs gets it.
I think it's also, too, maybe Jacksonville is just really desperate to get a wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
And he played really well with them once he got traded from Vegas. So, like, Brian Thomas Jr. he's good, but like there are concerns and questions and issues. And like they had tried, I feel like, so much with Trevor Lawrence with like, they did the Christian Kirk experience and, they tried to do some other things and that just haven't stuck. So I think they like the fit there. But I mean, Alvin Kamara is a running back in the NFL, and Alvin Kamara is who everybody compared Jahmyr Gibbs to coming out of Alabama. And after Alvin Kamara's 5th year, hasn't put up the same numbers that he once did. Now, is that a product of the Saints and their offense and all of the struggles that they've gone through, or is that symptomatic of Alvin Kamara? I mean, I don't think so. I think, Alvin Kamara also signed a recent contract extension. Like I still think he's like a good football player. Like, I mean, obviously he's not the same guy he was, but we're talking about a guy who was drafted in 2017, so I think I'm very pro, like, give him an extension. Like, why wouldn't you give him an extension when it comes to
you
Gibbs?
talking about Jahmyr? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I would not argue against. I just think that the wide receiver market is so out of whack compared to almost every it's crazy to me, the amount of money that they paying a wide receiver, and then your people are fretting around 21 or 22 million for Gibbs.
Drake London, 4 years, $141 million. Like, why would you give Drake London 4 years, $141 million before you took care of Bijan Robinson? Mm-hmm. Are wide receivers that much more important? I don't know. Like, would you rather have a number one wide receiver who's a stud, or would you rather have a number one running back who's a stud? That's really what the question boils down to, I think.
Well, I think it matters what that running back does too. If you got a guy like Jahmyr that affects the passing game just as much as he could affect the running game, then that's the dual threat, and that's worth way more than, I don't know. I say Derrick Henry is kind of an outlier just because he is just a freak, but for the most part, Jahmyr is just a different animal, and he could slot as a running back, but he could play slot wide receiver in the NFL if that's what he needed to do.
You would take Jahmyr Gibbs over Jamar Chase?
No. Well, you know what? Do I think Dan Campbell would? Yeah. Do I think the Lions would? Because they
tried to trade up for him.
They did. Man,
it's just funny because, there was that clip that I saw from the quarterback series that came out, and Joe Flacco was talking about how, like, I'm not even making good throws and Jamar Chase is catching the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm making terrible throws and he's still catching the ball 30 yards downfield. And he's just like laughing on the sideline. He's like, this guy is incredible.
I haven't made it that far yet. I liked how Flacco kept his MVP Corvette in the garage. It's just collecting dust. Did you watch it yet, Jason?
I haven't watched it.
No. I was telling the boys who's in there, and Baker Mayfield's the only one that I care to listen to in this year's class. I do not care to hear from Cam Ward at all. Jane Daniels, maybe a little bit. It's Joe Flacco just for nostalgia. I don't know.
It's insightful though. You get, a little bit of the background on these players. It's a good show. You start to respect them a little more, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm only on like the second episode, but I do like that show. I just thought it was funny. The Corvette's just got a thick layer of dust, and he's like, I haven't even driven this thing in years.
Jacob, would you to Jahmyr Gibbs or Jamar Chase? Just this year, who would you take?
If I had to pick between having Gibbs or Chase?
No, well, you get two. You get two for the amount of money. We'll just say at top of the market for both positions. You get two for 1 year. Who would you take?
I kind of have a personal vendetta against Jamar Chase, so I can't pick Jamar Chase.
So let's say Justin Jefferson. I'll give you Justin Jefferson. I know that he's in division.
Makes it difficult.
But yeah.
No.
Say I give you Bijan and Jameer. Well, just because I don't want to give two of the same players. So Bijan,
Yeah.
Jameer, or you get Justin Jefferson on your team for a season. I'm just saying one season this year.
Yeah.
Who would you, how attack that?
You would take Bijan and Jameer Gibbs. Why
I'm
would you
just
go
saying
any
for the
other
money.
way? Right,
I'm
right.
just saying the money. I'm just saying for the
No,
money
I
this year.
understand. But why would you go any other way? I don't understand the receiver pay either, because then those ones look way dumber. When Alec Pierce is making $30 million a year, and what did he even do? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
that's going to look bad.
I think you made a great point though, Jacob, when you said look at the top earners for running backs in 2022.
Yeah.
Where are those guys now? You know,
Right.
it's a credible thing to say, because if you go back to 2022, which was, you know, a year after Jamar Chase gets drafted, like Jamar Chase is still here, and we're having would you rather conversations about him. You know, Justin Jefferson is still here. Like these guys just have longer shelf lives.
Yep.
I think, generally speaking. So,
well, plus it's more of a passing league now too. You can make a big difference. I mean, it's just an interesting conversation. I think each team would attack it different. I think the Lions would, you know, everything's built, defensively to stop the run game. Offensively, you better be able to run the ball. Obviously, the Bengals build their team different. You know, they paid T. Higgins and Jamar Chase because they want to attack it that way. They got Joe Burrow, so it's an interesting conversation to have. I just think it's the disparity when you start looking for the player per money. When you start talking about, Alec Pierce, is Alec Pierce 1.5 worth 1.5 time contract? Is he going to affect the game as much as a Jameer Gibbs? No way. No way is that going to happen.
right.
So, all right. I think we've held you long enough, Ryan. What's going on at Pride of Detroit? What do you guys, leading up to training camp? What do you guys got going on?
Oh man. Well, right now I know we're wrapping up our rankings of our players. We go 1 through 90, and we've been releasing them in installments of 10. So I think today we just had players 20 through 11 drop. So be on the lookout for our voted top 10 players on the Detroit Lions roster heading into the 2026 season. We have training camp right around the corner. I know I'm taking a vacation. I wait to time my vacation until right before training camp. So because then after that, then it's like training camp picks up and then school picks up, and then I blink and it's Thanksgiving. So I always time my last vacation before both seasons start up at the very end. But on either Sunday or Monday this week, we'll have the podcast where we are going to do our training camp preview. I won't be a part of it, but you should definitely go check it out because Miko's great. He's an awesome host. Jeremy, he's just one of the hardest working guys in our profession, and they're going to give you great stuff. And whoever they bring on, if they bring on Eric, his reputation, precedes himself. He is the machine. So if they get him to join the show, it's going to be an awesome show. So just be on the lookout for all the training camp stuff. We always love doing bubble watch too. Like I know Jeremy just sent that out. So we always have our bubble watch, and each week after practice, we choose who's in, choose who's out based on, all the observations we read, which, Pride of Detroit will have observations every day. Jeremy, boots on the ground, Eric, boots on the ground, being at training camp and getting all those valuable nuggets of information that everybody's starved for, right? Like football season's right around the corner. And then once training camp starts, it feels like football season's starting, but I mean, you eat a saltine and you swear it's a Ritz cracker. You'll take any little bit of information. Remember how awful the Miami Dolphins were last year on the first day of joint practices?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's funny how all those things stick with you, but we just do an awesome job over at Pride of Detroit. There's so many hardworking people over there who do a lot of great work. So be ready for training camp because we will be. Yeah, and also, congratulations to you guys. Like I didn't want to go the entire podcast without sharing congratulations about your guys' cool partnership that you guys secured. So I'm really happy for you guys and really proud of the way that you've grown this.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We have a lot of to thank you guys over at the Pride of Detroit. Morgan, Miko, Al, Jeremy, obviously Ryan, been on here twice. Maybe you'll come back again. I don't know after my intro. Maybe I made you mad, but no, what was nice was that right after, like, I tweeted that, and then I got messages like from you, Jeremy, and Morgan, like really in succinct, like really quickly about it. And um, I looked up to you guys for. I've listened to you probably Detroit for as long as you guys have been out. Like I've been listening to you guys for a long time through some tough times, and we start to get good, and then obviously you had a scare for a little bit where you guys lost, and that's when we started, and right away you guys showed us love, and it was great. Just showed what type of people you guys are over there, and you guys should be. I'm so happy that listening to you guys on the podcast and then talking to you guys for real, and that you guys are really the same people. Like it's not a front. It's you guys are just nice people, and we've all like Lions and we all like talking Lions. So I appreciate the sentiments that you. It's a big deal for Jacob and I. We did not expect it, but we're just hoping the show just gets better. I mean, that's just getting different, more variety of guests, and more. We have more access to different teams that we've ever had, so it's going to be nice.
Just got to work on those jokes, Jason. Maybe
Hope you bet the 2 years, Jacob. You know what kind of jokes you're
Yep,
going to get from me. I'll
You
put
know,
people down so fast.
I think the best thing is that it's easy to recognize that there's room for everybody to exist in kind of the sports fandom sphere that we live in on the internet. And I wouldn't even say, when I'm thinking about how I want things to grow at Pride of Detroit, or when you think about, or you say something, Jason, I know you say like, trying to get better. It's like, just figure out how to be more you. Like Jeremy was
Yes.
talking about it on our show the other day, where he goes, I had a very specific idea for what I wanted Pride of Detroit to be. And I wanted it to be like, you can get certain perspectives from all these different places, but I want our perspective to be a little bit more grounded in like, yeah, we want to know who Lauren Strickland is. We want to know who, Dan Jackson, what he might bring to the Lions safety room now that he's healthy. Like, we want to cover the guys who are in the bottom of the roster, even when training camp starts. And we might not even hear from these guys ever again. But for those guys that we do hear about, like I remember the Kerry Hiders. I remember Kerry Hyder's unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that he got that would have ended up costing him more money than he made while in training camp with the Detroit Lions that season. Like, those are the stories that stick with you. And Kerry Hyder sticks around in the league, and he plays for the San Francisco 49ers, and he has like a nice little NFL career. Like, paying attention to those things were what we wanted Pride of Detroit to be like, we're getting all the way to the bottom of the roster and we're really being invested in it. And that's just who we wanted to be. So like, we need to lean more into that if we want to be who we are and if we want to grow. And it's the same thing for you guys. Like, continue to find your voice, and like, once you find what works, it's like, lean harder into that, like amplify and magnify that, because that's why people want to listen to you, because that's what you bring, right? Like, don't be anybody who you're not. So
That's great advice, and it's something we're still growing into that. 2 years in, the first I know for the first while on the show, it's like you're feeling like you're trying to prove yourself. Like I'm a fan, and I know what I'm talking about, and like I'm really editing everything. Like, oh, did I sound smart here? And slowly that goes away, and then slowly, like Jacob, I don't know about you, but I realize that like whatever I'm interested in, the people that vibe with that are going to find you, and then you're just going to stick with that, and you don't need to be someone that you're not. I don't need to provide all the information. I need to provide what I'm interested in and find that niche. I'm not I'm not I'm not Pride of Detroit. You have a whole staff. You guys could cover a lot of things. You have things that you're interested in. Jacob and I have things that we're interested in. We can cover that, and you can survive together. And that's what that I loved about you guys, is that there was never any competition like from the beginning, and not that there could have been. We're two guys just starting out, and you guys have been doing it forever, but it wasn't like that. It was like Morgan was so great. Like, we would watch film together. Morgan would just, like, on a Saturday, I was like, teach me some things that I don't know, and so he would just teach me how to watch film, and we'd watch film, and then he was on the podcast, and just different conversations that I've had with Jeremy and Miko and you. It just, yeah, it's awesome, and I think that you got good advice. And I'm stuck with Jacob, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, right. Hey, we've come a long way.
We have. We're
you guys
live
are
streaming. We're it's great. So, um, Spider-Man. Are you going to see Spider-Man? We'll leave on a topic that's not sports related.
Yeah, like I am gonna go see Spider-Man. I know that I'm gonna be taking my son. He is a Spider-Man nut. And he went to go see his first movie, which was the most recent Super Mario movie. He made it about 45 minutes, and I was pretty surprised by that. So I was like, cool. And then they just recently went to go see the new Toy Story movie, and he made it the whole way. So like, I don't know. We've purchased Little Caesars Pizza, so like he sees the Spider-Man on the box, and I've explained to him that there's a movie that's coming out. So I think he's excited enough that he wants to go see it. So I will go see it as well.
Yeah, it's the movie that
excited?
Jacob and I have been wanting to see it. Yeah.
I love Spider-Man. I've been waiting for a long time. And I actually kind of have a dilemma where, my kids want to see it. My youngest son is only 4 years old, and he also he wants to go to the movies all the time, which is fine, but he's at the age where when he has to use the bathroom, he's like, I need to use the bathroom right now. Well, right in the middle of the movie, we've got to get up and go. And like you said, if it's like Toy Story or Mario or whatever, it's not really the end of the world for me. I'm missing a couple minutes here or there, but I want to see Spider-Man. So now I have like a conflict, like, oh man, like I don't know, got to talk my wife into going and taking him to the bathroom when he has to go, or refilling his slushie and his popcorn and everything. It's a long movie.
And that's my argument for why we need to reintroduce intermissions for all movies.
Yes.
Like let's have an intermission in every movie. We watched 2001: A Space Odyssey in the senior English class that I teach, and there's an intermission in that movie. Like even in the copy that's on HBO Max, like you go watch it and it's like intermission, and all the kids are like, "What's going on? Like what's going on?" I'm like, "This is the time in the movie when everybody would take a break." They're like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, but you wouldn't pull out your phones. Like you would like go to the bathroom, or you would like go get a refill on your stuff, or so bring back.
You would think theaters would want that. You would think theaters would want that because then you would go out and get the snack, right? You'd be like, oh, because they could make more money. And there's nothing worse than what you said. Your 4-year-old had to go to the bathroom. I don't like when I have to go to the bathroom and I'm about, I'm like, oh man, there's like 30 minutes left, and I'm not missing any of it. And then what's even worse is those Marvel movies have, end scenes, and I'm like, I can't miss that.
So you're dancing by the exit door.
I'm like sitting there, like, yeah, I'm acting like your 4-year-old. I'm dancing, moving my legs. Do you got a second here, Ryan? Because Dan asked a question and I skipped over it. He says, is our defense stopping our Super Bowl aspirations, or is the defense closing our Super Bowl window? You don't need to give a long answer, but do you think it's all on our defense because our offense is figured out?
I have more questions about the defense than I do the offense. I think anybody who just looks at both of those, sides of the ball on paper would agree with that, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you guys have more questions about the offense that extend beyond Drew Petzing is legit, right? Like that's the number one question. Like Drew Petzing can handle this.
I think that's the number one question. I think the offensive line is a valid thing because it's new. Like I think it's going to be better personally. Maybe not week one, but like throughout, I think it's going to grow and be better. But I think that's a valid question because and if that doesn't go, that kills. That could kill your offense. But I certainly have more questions about defense.
Jacob, do you think the offensive line is going to be more new or more better?
I think it's going to be an upgrade over what it was last year. But I do think, I'm very big on seeing the offensive line work as a unit and work together. And you've got Panay flipping over to the other side. You've got potentially the rookie Blake Miller starting on the right. I want to see them work together in training camp. Hopefully, a little bit in the preseason game. I think it's definitely going to be an upgrade. But I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a concern or like something I'm paying close attention to.
Mm-hmm.
But especially after the Johnny Morton thing last year, where we kind of went into the year thinking that things were probably going to be okay. We keep the ball rolling here, and that was not the case at all. So now it's like we've kind of learned our lesson. Maybe we need to, pay closer attention to the offensive coordinator, the type of offense that he's running.
And even in spite of that, like the Lions were still like pretty awesome on offense, right? Like they weren't up to standard. I think we can all agree to that, right? And there was too much inconsistency in their week to week play, but by like all the metrics, they were a top 7 offense in the NFL last year. So even for as dysfunctional as last year was, it feels like my only real question, I agree with you, is like the right side. You look at Blake Miller, who's a rookie. You look at Tate Ratledge in year 2. Well, you don't get to play next to Penei Sewell anymore. Now you're playing next to a new guy who's a rookie. And then, oh, by the way, the guy to your left, he's also a new face, and you haven't played with him before. I'm a firm believer in Cade Mays. He was a guy who I identified towards the end of last season, going into that wild card round with the Panthers and the Rams. Like that was a guy who I had on my short list of centers, and I'm really happy the Lions signed him. So like my questions on offense are Drew Petzing is good. Like I think Drew Petzing, there's enough proof of concept there with what he did in Arizona with their run game, and even in their passing game to a certain extent. Making Jacoby Brissett look like a quarterback who can hold out. We're living in that timeline, guys. We're talking about Spider-Man. We're in the timeline where Jacoby Brissett is holding out. And part of that is like, you got to give credit to Drew Petzing for that. So, on the defense, it's just, I saw the I don't know if you guys saw the Athletic article that Jordan Rodriguez put out about the upcoming like NFL season and like who are like some of the hot names. Like Calvin Shepard's like one of the names that she identified as like he gets talked about a bunch. Like he gets talked about, how well he can connect with players and, how well he adapted last year and how excited people are to see him in year 2. And she has him like earmarked as a guy who, don't be shocked if he ends up getting even more talk about being a head coach, because we saw a little bit of it this past offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I think this season is really big for Calvin Shepard, and he has more talent than Aaron Glenn had, I think, in 2024, yes, like he finally had it, but also he lost Aiden Hutchinson, and that was such a backbreaker for that defense. I think if they had Aiden Hutchinson the entire year, I don't know, maybe we're talking about a Lions Super Bowl and we're having a different discussion today, but I just think that with the talent that Calvin Shepard has, like he has maybe the most pressure, I think, of like anybody in that building has. Like him and Drew Petzing are probably 1A and 1B, but I think that like this is the year where the Lions defense can't be the reason they sink.
They can't be too much worse than they were for that second half of last year. Like, it was bad. I know that you said the offensive was top 7. I want to say, and I agree with you. They did everything that they should have did last year, but I will tell you the difference between last year and offenses the previous 2 years, sustained drives. We did not control that, and that will make your defense look so much better because they're resting, field position's huge, like all those things. Not saying that our defense was good last year or the offense was the reason why, but I think that if we could at least get first downs, control field position, sustain drives, 7-minute drives, like that just is so wearing on the other team's defense, and then it gives your defense a big boost. So if anything that our offense could do to help our defenses would be that just stay on the field longer.
Do you know where they finished in DVOA last year, the Lions defense?
No, where was it at?
Ninth. Did they feel like a top 10 defense?
No.
I don't think so. Another very interesting stat. They finished 4th in air yards allowed. But they gave up the fewest yak. Just a really bizarre football team. Like in their ability to like have blown coverage assignments.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of the questions are for this football team. A lot of the questions are in the secondary. Who's your cornerback too? Is it Rock Ya-Sin? Is Ennis Rakestraw finally gonna break through and become a player in year 3? That's a really big ask for a guy who doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Who are your starting safeties? I don't think Brian Branch is going to be starting the year on the 53-man roster. So if that's the case, like are you putting a full workload on Kirby? Are you putting him on a pitch count? Chuck Clark, that's going to be your veteran guy. Christian Izzian, how does he fit in? You made sure that you brought Avonte Maddox back. Like there's so many new players too, though, right? Like Roger McCreary, and there's a lot of shuffle that's going on. And I've circled this as like, I think this is the one thing you can absolutely be critical about Brad Holmes about, is that it has been a revolving door in the secondary for the better part of 4 years. And it really sucks that, the Achilles injury for Branch and the chronic knee issues that Kirby Joseph is suffering. But what excuse do you have for not even having a single cornerback nailed down?
Well, you would hope that the stuff with Terrion didn't happen, or that Rakestraw did not have the chronic injury issues that he's had. But they let Carlton Davis go because Carlton Davis was looking for more money, right? And then you replaced him quickly with DJ Reed, and then Reed has the injury.
And that's a bit of bad luck too, right? But it's like, oh, that happened with Terrion. I can't imagine another cornerback has ever been wanted for his arrest. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, when lightning strikes twice in the same place, and then the tumultuous ride that was CJ Gardner-Johnson, it's just year after year. I mean, we're going the way back to 2023, so this is a year where it feels like some things need to solidify. Like DJ Reed needs to look like a number one guy. I think he can, but he needs to prove it. And on top of that, you're hoping that Rocky Sin can hold up for an entire year. You're hoping that you can get something on Ennis Rakestraw. Are we going to be put a percentage on whether or not you see Keith Abney play defense this year? What percentage do you think that is?
That we see him play, or like
play defense?
Do you think he's going to play? I would say I'd be pretty shocked if that he isn't going to play. And I'm worried about that because I don't like young corners playing meaningful snaps. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
We kind of talked about that before, is that if and when we see Keith Abney, it's either going to be because he just absolutely destroyed it in training camp and earned that spot, or injuries have happened and now here we go, throw him to the wolves.
Oh, I'd much rather see Keith Abney in week 1 than see Keith Abney in week 11. Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. But I agree. Like that it's just, I think when it comes to cornerback and safety, it's just one of those positions that you have the rare guy who works out his rookie season, Sauce Gardner. Those guys are once in a generation.
Witherspoon, I would say, probably falls in that, and he could have been a Lion.
How many do you really get from like a draft class or two? You know what I mean? Don't. Like they're fewer and far between, and but that doesn't mean it can't happen in year 2. I think it's just such a steep learning curve at cornerback that, I think Travis Hunter might be one hell of a cornerback now that he's, not worried about playing wide receiver anymore. So
yeah,
that could be something that works out for him. But lots of questions on the Lions defense. And I think the first 3 or 4 of them are all in the secondary. So,
yeah, I know I'm curious what that DVOA number has to do, because they were really efficient on first and second down, especially at the back end of the year. Their third down was atrocious. It didn't matter if it was third 8, third 12. You were giving that up, and that's why it looked so bad, because they were extending those drives.
So don't
Pittsburgh and the Giants game in particular stick out to me.
Well, I was going to say, and what is the big problem on third and long? It's the time to pressure. Right. It's the time to making a play in the backfield when it comes to your defense. And it's because that's the other thing, is that on first and second down, the Lions weren't very good at stopping the run last year in comparison to where they were in previous years. They were not as good at stopping the run as they were in previous years, but they still did end up in a lot of third and long situations, but they were the second slowest defense in time to pressure. So that kind of comes back on your coordinator a bit too, right? And that's where I really liked Aaron Glenn. I thought Aaron Glenn, for the most part, I loved how much he blitzed. I love how much he was willing to the Fatu Melifonwu blitzes, the Brian Branch blitzes, the Alex Anzalone, using him as a blitzer. You hope maybe one of those guys, Derek Barnes, we're hoping he takes a step and gets back on a productive path. You want to maybe use Jack Campbell a little bit more as a blitzer. It's the pass rush, but being creative with it. because I don't think you have a lot of twitchy, quick guys. And like, that's just who Aiden Hutchinson is. Like, I don't think it's a knock on Hutch. And I feel like whenever I say it, I always feel like people are reading it as a criticism of him, but it's okay that he's not Myles Garrett. It's okay that he's not, he's not Micah Parsons. It's okay. Like, those guys are who they are. They're really great at what they do. Aiden Hutchinson is great in a different way. He just doesn't have that trait that like Will Anderson Jr. has. Like, it's not like I'm there in the backfield and your quarterback just got eaten alive. That doesn't happen with Aiden Hutchinson. He's just going to wear you down over the course of a game. Like, I love having Aiden Hutchinson on the field in the fourth quarter. Like, he's a guy who I know will make a play, and I've seen him make plays in the fourth quarter. It's just, I think that comes back on your coordinator to be like, this is my personnel. I know who my guys are. I have to figure out how to scheme up pressure. So it's a big, big thing for Kelvin Shepard to answer this year.
Yeah, you said it. Scheme up pressure. Scheme up pressure. That's the problem. I feel for me, he was blitzing, just not effectively blitzing.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair comment too. Like, Hutch plays a lot. Should he be playing a little bit less? Like, can he play a little bit less? Was getting DJ Wanham this year and getting Derek Moore, and did you hear they're talking about Ahmed Hassanin? Like, he's not going to be the speed rusher role. They want him to be like the base end role. They want him to play like, against the run and stuff like that. So like, okay, like, who's going to step up? Like, I want to see more rotation along the edge. I want to see Hutch getting a little bit of a breather, but I also want to see him kicking inside. Like, Aiden Hutchinson can beat a guard quick. An athletic big tackle, that's a little bit different, So like, put him in positions to succeed. Levi Onwuzurike, I think he's one of their biggest wild cards of the season. Guy had 45 pressures in 2024. Like, he was second on the team, tied with Aleem McNeil. It's it's fascinating. I'm super excited. I'm sorry. I know we're just talking football right now.
No, this is what this is all about.
We're good.
Levi is, for the defensive line, for me, he is, you said it, wild card. If he is healthy, then I like this defensive line so much more than
he's the lotto ticket. I think he's the lotto ticket, because who else do you guys think would be a great wild card along that defensive line? Who's a guy that you really want to take a step?
That I want to take a step? I mean, I want to lean back. I think if Aleem's 2 years back, like, pre-injury back, that's huge. Tyleik, he's got to make that year 2 jump, right? And he's going to have a lot more snaps.
Who is Tyleik Williams at this point?
Yeah. Well, he's DJ Reader this year, but he's got to be able to get some pass rush. But I think the thing that I like about Tyleik is also he gets his hands up and knocks down passes, and I think that can be a game changer. You get a couple picks off that. Oh my God, it's just like a quarterback. I mean, you're knocking it down, they ain't gonna be complete. But who's your answer? Is Tyleik your guy, or
Jacob? Who's your guy along the defensive line?
I went right to Tyleik, which I don't know if wild card necessarily is what I would call it, but that's somebody that we need to see. I mean, obviously he's going to have more snaps, but we need to see him play better in year 2. And he's got the whole first round thing hanging over his head as well. He's got to prove that he was worth the first round pick.
Yeah. I think he's one of the more important players, because it's not only just DJ Reader. Like, we all really liked what Roy Lopez did last year, and watching Roy Lopez go back to Arizona for the contract that he signed, you weren't even willing to give Roy Lopez, who played well, a little bit of a pay bump. Is that how much you believe in Tyleik Williams taking that year 2 step? And if so, okay, I'm there. Pants off. Let's do it. Like I'm excited if Tyleik Williams is ready to take that step to be a guy who is consistently playing on first and second down. I think the wild card spot for me, though, is we heard all about the pass rush. We heard all about how twitchy he is, and like, don't mistake him for like a slow big guy. And he's got great feet, and he reminds us of Aleem McNeil. Okay, like, all right, that'd be cool to see in year 2. That's when we first started to see a little bit of it with Ali McNeil was in year 2.
Yeah.
So if you get some pass rush out of him, I think those are the two biggest things though. Like if you get pressure out of Levi Onwuzurike and you get pressure out of Tyleik Williams, I think I really like where the Lions can be as far as a defense goes this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and they have to do better against run. You said in one of the press conferences, Kelvin Shepard said we haven't been beaten up on the run, and that's an absolute like I thought that was an absolute lie at the time. Like they were getting gashed, and it was embarrassing, especially on cutbacks. Derek Barnes over pursued a lot, and even Alex did not play that great. I thought, as far as getting gashed on the backside. So, but for the Lions, all of it starts up front, and they need to clog the middle and do all that stuff. But I'm so ready for football to start, fellas.
They finished 19th in run defense DVOA last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Yes. That passes that DVOA is interesting because you said they were the ninth best defense or however they rate it. So that did not pass the eye test, but 19th in run, that passes the eye test. And for a team, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think it completely speaks to what you said though. Like in the first half, their defense was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty good, nice, good stuff." DJ Reed gets hurt. It's like, oh no, Kirby Joseph gets hurt. Oh no,
Yeah.
and they just were so short on secondary that it was like, that's why you have all those air yards, and then they just took that nosedive because I think that they were like a top 4 or 5 defense through the first like 8 or 9, 7 or 8 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks, something like that last year. And then
Kevin Shepard was getting a lot of talk, like especially after Legion of Boom. Like he's like,
absolutely.
"Are we going to lose him next year?" Like that was a legit conversation that everybody was having. I was like, he's going to be a one and done coordinator and get a job somewhere. But then when you start losing players of Brian Branch caliber, then that it really just hurt. The only positive that you could have to say about that is that Thomas Harper got more snaps, right? And he's going to play on this defense, especially early on. You're hoping that, not saying that those are going to be on Kirby or Branch's level, but you're hoping that you see a little bit of a jump and there's not as big of a drop off from a Branch and a Kirby back there. If you're going to bring Harper in there, you got Izzy back there. How is he going to, where is he going to play nickel back? You got, Chuck Clark, I think, was a great and smart pickup. I'm so happy about that pickup because you talk about if Kirby's out, you could count on him coming in there and just like calming everything down. His communication's great. I thought that was a really smart pickup for the Lions.
Now we're flooded with backup safeties, right? Izzy, Clark, Harper, Avante.
The Izzy stuff was fascinating to me because if my memory serves me right, Izzy was signed before McCreary was signed.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, Christian Izzy might play nickelback for the Detroit Lions. He might play some slot corner, and they may feel pretty comfortable doing that. And then when they signed McCreary, it was like, oh, okay, so Izzy at safety to play the Brian Branch role. Like that's where my easy fit for him then immediately became. And that made a lot of sense. And then I understood why Avonte Maddox was the guy on the outside looking in. And then when they signed him, it was like, oh, they just want to have a ton of veteran depth that they can trust in terms of like their ability to communicate and know the back end of the defense. So, and that's why they bring in Chuck Clark.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you think about last year. I mean, think about this, Jacob. Last year they had Kirby and they had Branch. We had not many veterans behind them. Like we were looking for like who they're going to sign last year. It's like Avonte Maddox was our veteran back there. They didn't sign Thomas Harper until like after the 53. I think he was one of the ones
he was cut by the Raiders. Yeah.
Right. And so like this year, I think it was a concerted effort. Like we're going to have veteran guys back there that if Kirby and Branch can't go, they're going to be able to communicate and just hold the fort down.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, who did they break training camp with at safety? As far as their depth, they had Daniel Thomas was there.
Yeah. Yep. He was.
I think they kind of just viewed as like, yeah, like Rock was getting the cornerback stuff, but he was also getting the safety work.
Mhm.
And Avante was kind of like the nickel back up to Meek, but then he eventually ended up playing safety. So
Safety. Yeah.
yeah, that was the Legion of whom.
Yes, I
Right,
know.
right.
And yeah, we'll see how training camp's right around. We're gonna see where everybody lines up. They had Izzy back at free safety in mini camps, but that might have been just to see where he was at. It'll be interesting to see the rotation, as it comes up here. Ryan, I want to thank you again for joining, talking football, almost 2 hours here. So I know you were gone for like 15 minutes while you restarted, but still, you put in more than your time. So this is officially your second and your third show because I'll probably split this into 2 episodes. But I appreciate all the time that you gave us. And Jacob, thanks for putting up with my bad jokes.
As always, it's fine.
All right. For Ryan, Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.